Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We're going to get into UFOs tonight over the Northland. Yeah, not Canada, no, but how about Minnesota? How about North Dakota? Yeah, they got aliens over there. We're going to find out. We got Jerred and Anna here. They are both going to tune on in and tell us some wild, wicked encounters of UFOs tonight. It's going to be a busy night. It really is, and I'm looking forward to it. My beard's looking good. And the best part about tonight, we have each and every one of you, including Beth Noyes in the gold medal position, Eternity Eternal with the silver, Fast Hemi with a bronze medal tonight. For those keeping track, Race Fan was in fifth place. Fifth place. Charlene Williams, welcome to SOR Chat. Hi, Kitty Caddywhack and Robert Lamoth. Deborah Rooney, nice to have you in early. There's Mel WD40 lubing us up for tonight's show because you always want to go into a show nice and smooth. You never want rigidness when you're talking UFOs. So thank you, Mel, for lubing us up tonight. T-Bone, my man, how are you? Thank you for joining us. Mama Catherine, I love you, my dear. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful night enjoying tonight's show. This one will be a good one for you. Ethanol, how are you tonight as we continue on with our roll call here? Let's say hello to Karen in the Woo Train. Karen in the Woo Train will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio if you don't mind. To the left of the studio. Little Timmy James, how you doing, buddy? I hate it when you're not in studio, by the way. I do. Sucks. Glenn John McEnroe, Pride of Wimbledon. How you doing, my friend, as we continue on with our roll call here? Who's next for us? Well, let's just scroll on down and have a see. It's Millennium, my man. What's happening, brother? How's Ontario tonight? Scrolling on down, we have Cosmic Joe. How are you, my friend? Amanda, Noble Patrick, and Kurt M. Good to see you all. Stu Effin Gerson is here. Yeah, Stu Effin Gerson is going to be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. Scrolling on down, there's Sensational Shelley, and it's a rare visit from Destiny Rocks. How are you tonight? Good to see you back. Skip to Malou, good morning to you. Tyler 420, thanks for coming on in. Roll call is underway, and we say hello to Undead Jed and Flat 6. Good to have you both here. And who's this here? Raven Hayes, nice to see you. Alien Critter, thank you for coming on in as we continue on with our roll call. And who is next here? We scroll on down, and we say hello to Missouri Man. Bar Madison, good to have you both here. And who is next? Oh, Kitty Caddywhack is kicking off the Super Chat tonight. The Super Chat is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So, Kitty, thank you very, very much for your love of SOR. And continuing on, who's next here? Lenda, how are you? Delilah, nice to have you back. And who is next? Sherry Knight, how are you tonight? Thank you for coming on in. Oh, I can't wait to go to the eye doctor next week. Oh, it's going to be good. Finally going to get some new glasses. Short Order Cook, welcome to SOR Chat. Fapster, how are you? Algaray over on Twitch, bench press 500 pounds 34 times to get jacked up for tonight's show. He's looking good tonight, wearing a blue tank top as well. All right, Grace, nice to see you. Joseph Daniel Pena, how are you, my friend? Good to have you here. Let's get the radio side going. Hi, JSCO, how are you? Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We're going to take a look at Northland MUFON. And Jerred and Anna are here, Jerred Nelson, Anna Scott. They're going to break it all down for some of the creepy encounters that they've had come across their desks when it comes to UFOs. We are in roll call right now, right before the show. We got about 25 seconds. I'm Hardcore on X. Nice to see you here. Grantavius, how's your mustache? Give us an update if you don't mind. Excuse me. Scrolling on down. Jessica McCreary, nice to see you. And Jerence Carter, nice to have you here. Kurt W75, hello. Horns up, everybody. Let's rock.
Are you ready to hear your mystic voice of the night?
It's time to wake up.
He's here. Shush. Be quiet. He's ready for you to listen. Let's point our ears towards the little cabin in the woods, where together, my friends, we own the night. It's time for Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott.
From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I'm your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You will find them on our website. We're going to talk some UFOs over the central northern part of the U.S. Jerred Nelson, Anna Scott are here from Minnesota and North Dakota. They're part of MUFON. They're going to get into their latest and greatest UFO stories. It's a busy hour number 3. We got Swamp Dweller. We got Little Timmy James and the UFO Report. We also have the Dave 101 and the weird news of the week. So let's jump right into it because we got heavy boots to fill tonight. All right, these two are absolutely amazing guests, and you know, I owe them an apology publicly. I said it privately, but I owe them an apology publicly because their last appearance on this show, I didn't know that I had sleep apnea and was developing narcolepsy. And believe it or not, during the show, I actually fell asleep a couple of times, and I didn't even know it. Didn't even know it. But I'm glad they have forgiven us and have returned to Spaced Out Radio, understanding that I had some health issues that I didn't know about. Let's start out with Jerred here. He is a part of an extraordinary journey from seasoned military aviator and U.S. Army Warrant Officer to a respected voice of the UFO community. And, you know, this is a guy who literally has pushed the boundaries of the known and unknown with over 4 decades in aviation and academic credentials. He also rocks a very solid goatee if you want to check it on out. He is the Assistant State Director for both the Minnesota and North Dakota chapters of MUFON and co-director of Northland MUFON, playing central role in regional and national UAP, we like UFO around here, research efforts. Anna Scott, by the way, holds a Bachelor's of Science in Nursing degree and has worked in healthcare for almost 30 years. She is a lifelong experiencer of the UFO phenomena and spent almost 30 years investigating both her own experiences and other similar reports. She has traveled to numerous alleged crash sites and UFO-related areas. We got to get her up here to Flight 21, see what she could bring in with a landing. Oh, yeah. She became a MUFON Field Investigator in 2018. She's part of MUFON's Experiencer Resource Team. These two have experience of the unknown that is highly uncontested. And we bring them both in. Anna Scott, thank you for being here again. And Jerred Nelson, thank you for your service. And we appreciate everything that you've done so far. Appreciate you coming back on Spaced Out Radio.
Very happy to be here. Thank you.
It is wonderful to have you here. For our audience members, because they're ever changing, Jerry, let's start with you, being a veteran and someone who has spent time in aviation, a long time, I should say. How did the whole UFO journey begin for you?
Well, that is a really good question. I don't know. It's just something that I've always been interested in. It goes back a long time. I mean, when I was in grade school, second, third grade, started to read, I'd go to the library and I'd get to that 100 series for those people that know the Dewey Decimal System, and that's where all the awesome books are at, and read about Bigfoot, Loch Ness, and UFOs and stuff like that. So honestly, it's kind of been a lifelong deal. However, when I was in the Marine Corps back in the late 80s, we were doing some maintenance test flights. We were working on an aircraft. I got kicked out of it. I was just a crew chief at the time, an enlisted guy, so not a pilot. Another guy came out. He wanted to fly with it because it's normally you'll have a pilot in the back, and then I would fly up front. But I got kicked out. They went out over the coast, and as they're over the coast by Camp Pendleton there, they had about a basketball-sized sphere fly by the aircraft. I almost got to see it, but I got kicked off that aircraft and missed it. So anyhow, that just kind of pushed it along, and had a few things happen from then too. But lots of background stuff on that, I guess.
And Anna, I want to bring you in here because you're an experiencer. And I love it when people who have degrees in science and have been built on nuts and bolts through education are also experiencers as well. Because I think you have probably the most unique idealisms of how things work, why they work, and the impossible, or what is supposed to be the impossible. Tell us your story about how you found out you were an experiencer.
Well, let's see. I guess I really didn't find out. I just always was, is probably the best way to say it. I don't remember a time I didn't have weirdness in my life. Not just UFO stuff, but other things as well. What most people would think of as ghosts and other type of paranormal phenomenon. That's very common among experiencers of the UFO phenomenon, is to have these other experiences in other realms of the paranormal. But when I was a child, growing up, lots of different experiences, from entities in my room that I couldn't quite understand. I didn't even recognize when I was really young that these might not have been humans. I thought they were just weird pirates, honestly. That's kind of what I thought. I didn't have a term like the Greys or anything to put to it. They were just these really emaciated looking humanoid type things with eye patches. So I just thought for sure, these must be pirates when I was a kid. So that's what I always referred to that about that. But even going into high school as a teenager, I had experiences with orbs. The word orb or term orb can be a little contentious. Basically, they were spherical things that were moving about the size of a basketball. It's interesting that Jerred brings that up. I wasn't always the only one to see it, so that really was kind of comforting for me. It did cost me a couple of friendships when I was younger, though. And there was a part of me that really struggled with whether or not this was some sort of an illusion or something that my mind created, even though other people saw it. And so that's what really pushed me into the science realm. I wanted some kind of real grounding experience, and science brought me that. And so I've done a few different things in the healthcare field, not just nursing. I used to work in a lab as well. And the phenomenon's never really stopped. I continue to experience it occasionally. Unfortunately, I can't predict it. I wish I could. I really wish I could. But I spend a lot of time looking at the sky, and occasionally interesting things happen.
How did you come to accepting it?
I didn't really have a choice. It was either that or kind of lock myself in a rubber room. It is my reality. It's always been a part of my reality. And whether I wanted to accept it or not, it was what it was. I got to maybe mid-40s and stopped caring what other people thought and stopped hiding it so much. And that's when I joined MUFON and became a field investigator and worked my way up the ranks in MUFON.
Both of you have very practical backgrounds. You in aviation, Jerred, Anna in nursing and science. You go to your colleagues, or quite a few of your colleagues, and you talk about this subject, Anna, and you're like, they're like, oh, I don't really believe in this stuff. You really chase those things down? What are you doing wasting your time with that crap for? How many times have you heard that?
Well, I can't say I've never heard it. One of the really interesting things is that because it's part of the realm of the paranormal, most of the people that I work with in the nursing field have had unusual circumstances, usually surrounding, unfortunately, patients die, and usually it's surrounding one of those deaths. So the whole realm of the paranormal isn't as unusual to nurses, I guess. Now, when I take that a step farther and talk about UFOs, I generally approach it in I saw something that I can't explain. I don't necessarily say, these were aliens in a spaceship. And as long as I present it in a way that, look, I just don't know what it was, usually I don't get a lot of ridicule. But there's been a few times where people have looked at me a little odd. I will admit to that.
And for you, Jerred, how is the reaction around your crowd coming from the aviation industry where you guys know pretty much everything of what's in the sky, and here you are chasing down these UFOs?
Well, actually, surprisingly, I don't get much ridicule at all about it because there's several other people that I work with that have seen stuff, and they've come to me and we've talked about it and tried to figure out what it was. So I really haven't had that much of a problem at all. Even sitting around at work, we might get on the subject or just we'll have other people around and they'll just bring it up. I think they kind of know that I do that there. I don't really talk about it a lot, but when people talk to me about it, they're serious and sincere. I've never really had a problem with it.
Why is this topic so important to you, Jerry?
Well, there's several reasons. Because of the aviation background, a big part of it is safety in the skies. Because, like that big old basketball thing, like I said, flew by the aircraft, that thing could have hit them very easily. There's been other instances of aircraft that have hit something, whether that was a bird or whether it was something spherical, you don't know. But it's important to me to get kind of down to the nuts and bolts to find out what the heck is really going on. So we can kind of do something about it. Now, I'm happy that the government's finally accepted that this stuff, or as I shouldn't say accepted, has actually said that, okay, this stuff is real. So maybe we can do something about it. And what can we do about it? I don't know, because they're not really going to be talking air traffic control, that's for sure. But if we can come to some kind of understanding, that'd be really nice.
When you were serving, did you have any incidents or hear about incidents regarding UFOs?
Actually, it was just that one time when I was a mechanic, crew chief, enlisted guy, that they saw that sphere. Other than that, when I was in the military, no, I hadn't heard anything. Nobody really talked about that kind of stuff. Maybe they'd seen stuff, but I guess they're probably pretty tight-lipped about it. I personally have never seen a UFO. I've seen other things, but I've never seen a UFO. So
why do it then? Yeah. If you've never seen a UFO, why do it? Why believe in it?
It just makes sense to me. How can we be so arrogant that we're the only beings in the universe? That just makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. Like I said, this is something that I've always been interested in. It just makes sense. I couldn't tell you exactly why, but I guess I just kind of want to prove to myself that yes, they do exist.
And for you, I mean, kind of taking the jump into MUFON and getting into the investigative side of everything. And even though it's kind of funny because there's this giant rumor going around the board of directors of MUFON that I don't like them and that I will try and be mean to them on the air. And that couldn't be further from the truth. I love MUFON. I do. I am publicly stating right here, I love MUFON. Okay, for the record. And the reason why I say that is you have taken this whole MUFON game right to the top level that you can by not only being a state director, by jumping into the experiencer research team, by doing all of these investigations. You are all in on this subject. Why the passion for you? Is it about the people, not on a personal level for you, but more so on a people level? Why the passion?
Oh, well, that's a great question. As far as the experiencers, I think I get just as much from interacting with them as they get from me. But so many of them are so isolated. They haven't had anybody to talk to about their experience. They don't really know where to turn. A lot of them have trauma, not necessarily because it was something bad that happened to them, but because they don't understand what it was that happened to them. And I can totally relate. And I think that it's a real asset that MUFON has the ERT, because there are so many people out there that just really need someone to talk to, someone safe to talk to, that won't ridicule them, that won't, make fun of them or debunk what they're trying to say. And I really have a passion for helping other people. And when I can do something that really gives quality assistance to somebody else, I get a lot from that. So besides my own personal things and wanting to just really understand what the heck this phenomenon is, that's really what my focus is in MUFON, is really helping people try and figure out what it is that they've seen.
That is
What do
a
you
big
think
part
these
of it,
are,
isn't it?
Jerred?
What do I think
Sorry,
they
Jerry?
are?
Yeah.
I was just saying, and I'm also on the experience resource team, but I agree 100% with Anna on that. Just helping people try to understand or come to terms with what they've gone through, what they think they saw, or what they did see, or what just happened to them. I mean, you hear connecting things throughout the stories. Some things are the same, some things are completely way out there. You just never really know. There is no typical scenario for that kind of stuff. So you can't write a handbook to it and say, oh, I must have had an experience last night because this happened, this happened, and this happened. Well, that's not how it works. So being able to talk to these people, calm them down, I guess, for lack of a better way of saying it, and just kind of help them come to grips with the whole thing. It makes a huge difference, and it makes you feel really good about doing it too. Absolutely.
I had Maya Cowan, anthropologist out of Binghamton University, on last night. We were talking about experiencers and ET contact, and she said something very profound, that the scientific community really needs to start coming together with the experiencer community, because it's the experiencers that have all of these little tips of knowledge that the scientific community never seems to give them credit for. And if we take that away from the search and the research, we're just shooting ourselves in our own foot. Now, I'm paraphrasing what she said there. She didn't say that word for word, but that's the angle she was taking. Anna, how do you feel about that? Is there a possibility that we could actually bridge that gap between science and experience?
Yes, actually, there really is. And it's another passion of mine. So both Jerry and I belong to another organization called SCU. And one of the things that I've been working to do is try and figure out how can we study the phenomenon and using the scientific method in a way that will give us real data. And there are some potentials out there within the SCU community. And for those that don't know, SCU is really a hard science-based organization. And I think that's down the road. One of the biggest challenges is how do we get credible data? There are so many things that you need to rule out. For instance, mental illness is a great example. And I would like, whenever I talk about mental illness, I always want to make sure that I put in this caveat: just because somebody suffers from mental illness does not mean that they can't have contact. It's just difficult to differentiate between what is real and what is the mental illness. And so for that reason, those folks would probably have to be excluded in any kind of real research study. But there are things that are in process right now to try and take a look at that, because I think we have to. I think that there's so much value in the experiencer phenomena and what the experiencers are actually experiencing.
I would agree with that. And how about for you, Jer? Your thoughts?
Well, just like that, it's the how do you bring science into something that you have to have repeatability, right? You can't have repeatability on the UFO phenomenon because you don't know when these things are going to happen. You can't predict, say, it's going to happen next week or it's going to happen over here. So the repeatability part of it's really difficult. But you can still gather up all this data. But just like Anna is saying, you got to be able to separate those people that just want their 15 minutes, those people that are actually kind of sick and need some help, and those people that have honestly had some type of experience, or even just those people that just see a UFO. We get a lot of cases. I'd say probably 80%-ish, give or take, of mine that I've done have been identified as aircraft or satellites or whatever. But there's still that 20%, and none of them are the same. So there's that aspect of it too, because you could have 5 people see the same thing, and you're going to get 5 different descriptions of the thing. So gathering the data is kind of difficult and keeping it straight. So that really right there is kind of going to be a big part of a big hump to get over to study this scientifically.
Jerry, you hit the nail right on the head there, because one of the big things that baffles me about this field is when you can have 5 people, like you just said, and everybody saw something different.
Yeah.
Is that just human nature, or is that the phenomena actually changing what people see individually? Jerry, let's start with you, and Anna, let's go with you next. We got about 90 seconds, and if we got to carry this part on afterwards, we will.
Okay, so you're right. There is the whole screen illusions or whatever. They can mess with your mind. I'm losing my train of thought just doing this. That is the hard part. Annie, just take over for me, because I've just kind of lost myself there.
Well, I think it ultimately comes down to consciousness and what kind of consciousness connection is there in the phenomenon. I firmly believe that at least a substantial part of the phenomenon is based somehow connected to consciousness. There's a lot of research that's really, really intriguing that also points in that direction. So it isn't just an opinion. And there's actually a lot of work that's being done right now to try and figure that out. What part does consciousness play in all of the paranormal?
Oh, I'd say it plays a lot more than what we think. Mm-hmm. I harken back to an experience that we had a couple years ago in 2023, where I saw a UFO on the ground, and the 6 other people who were right beside me could not see the UFO 30 yards ahead of us. Okay? However, I did not see the aliens walking through the trees. The 6 others did. I was right beside them. I mean, how that is even possible, I don't know. That is what trips me out about this whole thing. And I don't know if it's just, the easy excuse of people misremembering. That's an easy way out, but I think there is more to it. We got Jerred Nelson, we got Anna Scott, both are from Northland MUFON, covering North Dakota and Minnesota when it comes to the great subject of UFOs. We'll be right back on Spaced Out Radio with the next half hour. All right, guys, we're clear.
All right. Yeah, it is amazing. They can really mess with your head, for lack of a better way of saying it. You know, it's just their control over us, from what I've experienced and what I've seen, and what I've talked to people and heard, it's just amazing. Absolutely amazing. They can make us see whatever the heck they want us to see, for the most part. You know, I think you can fight it, but wow.
Well, we'll answer the rest of that question when we come back, you know, because I want to make sure we get that on the air, because it really sucks having to try and repeat yourself, because normally you say something really awesome during the break, and then you forget about exactly what it was. So,
I definitely have
my
a
buddy
piece-
Tim, him and I have started an investigation out here in the middle of the forest. That is really screwy. Really screwy. And we've gone for the last 5 weeks, or for the last 6 weeks. And we're filming everything and trying to document everything. It's amazing how much you miss. You know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It really sucks with how much you miss. And we're allowing the phenomena to just dictate what is going on. Like, we're not pushing it. We're just saying, okay, phenomena, you called us out here. Now show us what you want to show us. So right now the aliens have started coming around. Tim had a sighting of what we may think was an alien. Hi, Blue Moon. How are you? Hi, Ukrainian Anita. And we're 30 miles into the forest.
Wow.
Right. And Mr. Cowley, how are you? And, oh, God, it's so freaky there. Gary Doyle, how are you? It's something different, because I've never been a researcher before.
Mm-hmm.
You know? I'm usually an enthusiast. I don't care about cameras. I don't care about anything. I just want to go have the sighting with my own eyes and just sit back and enjoy it. Now I have to get rid of that thinking. I don't know how you guys do it.
Now you got to document it.
Right?
Yeah.
If it wasn't documented, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
True.
Exactly.
But then I could say, I know what I saw. Karen Johnson, welcome to SOR Chat. How are you? Yeah, this area, it's a haunted site.
Okay.
Where on July 8th, 1965, a plane crashed, killing 52 people.
Oh, my.
And it's still labeled as Canada's largest unsolved mass murder.
Huh. Really?
It's a case that'll never be solved unless they come out with some sort of fancy AI technology where they can recreate everything.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they can. But Jaquetta, how are you? But it's freaky there. It is completely scary, because you're literally surrounded by trees, and all you are is on a little, like, 4x4 path, and right at the end of it is like a little miniature cul-de-sac that could fit like 2 vehicles side by side with movement.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're surrounded by trees. And we've had some weird shit go on there, man. We really have.
Wow.
Erica Stover, how are you? Like, we've had Bigfoot, we've had ghosts, we've had UFOs, aliens, and this is in a size maybe smaller than an American football field.
So what were these aliens that you guys had seen? Well, you didn't see. You saw them.
I didn't see them.
Yeah.
Apparently, they were tall grays.
Okay. Yeah. What did the ship
Yeah,
look like?
about the 6 foot grays.
Okay.
Applesauce, how are you? The one Tim saw, and he only saw it for a couple of seconds. It was about 5 feet. Tiny body with the oval-shaped head.
Yeah.
So, Paul Demon, how are you? So, I think there's a portal there, personally,
Could be.
but that's just me.
Yeah.
Walter, how are you? All right, big thank you tonight to Kitty Caddywhack, Frankie B, Deborah Rooney, and Mel WD40 with the lube chat. Greatly appreciate the love. Our store is spacedoutradio.com. You can shop there because we don't have any ugly swag, so you'll look good. Here we go. Hi there, my name is Dave Scott. This is the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. What y'all doing? You got some tinfoil going on? I know I do. Literally. And I feel comfy as well. Hey, we're going to get back to our guests, Jerred Nelson and Anna Scott, momentarily, but first we want to remind all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, our archives are always free. Go to YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. And we're going to continue with the show tonight. Why? Because it's a good one about UFOs from Northland, MUFON. We have Jerred Nelson, Anna Scott. They are the state directors for both North Dakota and northern Minnesota, and we're having fun talking UFOs tonight. And right before the break, we were talking about everything from experiencers to the commonalities people are having. It really is an interesting subject, Anna, when you look at it, that people today are so engulfed and ingrained with what is normal. Then they see something that is abnormal, and now they really don't know how to deal with it. They don't know what they're doing with it. Talk about how the experiencer is able to report something to you guys and how you would take a case.
Sure. So basically, they just go to MUFON.com, and you have a choice between either reporting a UFO or reporting an abduction. Abduction is a older term. Most of the time, we're referring to people as experiencers versus abductees. But once you get on there, you fill out the experiencer questionnaire, and it asks a bunch of basic questions. There are some, name and address. One of the nice things about MUFON is that we absolutely hold our experiencers' identity and personal information very, very anonymous. So very few people have access to that information. So if a report comes in, say in North Dakota, I can access that. Jerred can access that. George Medich, our ERT director, can access that, and the director of investigations can access that information. It's not available to anybody else, any other field investigators, unless they've been assigned to that specific case, and only then if they've also reported a UFO. So that would be the first step, and after that, it would be assigned to an ERT member. And we usually reach out by email at first. We don't want to scare people. Sometimes people will put in a questionnaire and then they're like, oh, I don't know if I should have done that. So we usually reach out by email. If we can't reach them, most of the time we'll give them a phone call. And sometimes people just want to put that information out there, but they really don't want to have a discussion with us. And so about maybe 40% of the time we don't hear back. But most of the time we do. And besides offering a listening ear, we can help them with some other things. We can refer them to vetted professionals, therapists, hypnotherapists, lots of different vetted professionals, along with support groups. So we do have things that we can offer the experiencers besides just a listening ear.
Out of those experiencers that are hesitant to give a ring back, how do you try and calm their nerves, Jerred? about the idea of saying this is a good thing. You're talking about it. We're here for you. Because I would assume that somebody's biggest fear is that the one place they should be able to turn may turn them down and say, well, you saw swamp gas, you saw Venus, you saw Jupiter on one of its bright nights. I mean, there's always that fear that people have of being rejected when they know what they saw.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Yeah, absolutely right. Well, like Anna was saying, the first step is to send these people an email, and I'll put in there exactly what we're going to talk about. I'll put in their narrative that they wrote so that they know that it's actually coming from us and not some third party Yahoo or something. And just explain to them that everything is completely anonymous, that we have things in place to help out, the support groups, the hypnotherapy, the whole 9 yards. Or if you just want to talk about it and just get it off your chest, we're here to listen. And that's all we're going to do is just listen. We'll provide whatever help you'd like, but we're not going to force anything on you. And a lot of people, honestly, all they want to do is just talk about it. And once they get it off their chest, once they've talked about it and everybody's happy, they're happy. They don't need anything more. It's actually kind of weird because when I first started with the ERT, the Experience Resource Team, I had asked a few people. It's like, okay, I'm talking to these people, but when I'm talking to them, it's just like shotgun. They're just rattling off everything that's happening to them, and I can't keep up with it. It doesn't matter. I don't really need to keep up with it. I just need to be there for them, to listen to them, so that make them feel like they're not crazy. This stuff does happen, and that's really a lot of people. That's all they need is just that nudge to talk. That's it.
Well, if I could add something to that too, I want to make sure that we clarify something. So there's two different kinds of reports. There's report a UFO and there's report an experience. And those two different types of reports are handled very, very differently. So if somebody reports a UFO sighting, that's where we actually do an investigation. We want to find out, can we figure out what this person actually saw? Sometimes it's the ISS or satellites. Sometimes it's Venus or fireworks nearby, or sometimes there's a real cause. Airplanes are a great example of, in Starlink satellites, we get a lot of those. And our goal there is to try and figure out what they actually saw. So there is some judgment calls on those kinds of cases. We will see if we can determine what it is. And if we can't determine what it is, then it goes in the unknown, and those are the most interesting. Now, with the ERT, our goal is not to determine anything. We're not there to investigate what the person is talking about. We are there to offer support. And so it's a very different focus with the ERT than it is with a regular case. So I just wanted to make sure that was clarified.
Yeah, well said. Well said. That's exactly right. There's two completely different things that go on there. One, we're investigators. The other one, we're just there to help. That's it. So, yeah. Thanks, Hannah. That was perfect.
Let's get into some of your more popular stories that have sat with you guys so far in 2025. What are people seeing, Anna?
Well, I can talk about a case that was just recently reported to us. I found it fascinating, actually. There's a lot of elements of it that really make it very interesting to me. It actually happened back last September, first week in September. And this happened in McLean County in North Dakota. And McLean County is just south of Minot Air Force Base. So there's a little caveat there that we get a lot of sightings around military installations. And so this person was out hunting with her husband, and they were hunting on their land, very, very rural. There's nothing around for miles. And they were bow hunting. And just when they had to pack it up for the night, because it was after sundown, they were heading back to their truck, and the witness saw what she described as a ball of white light with kind of a turquoise center that was hovering off the ground, maybe 5 feet or so, and was about, I think she said about 300 yards, something like that. And she tried to get her husband's attention to look at it, and when she turned to try and yell at her husband, basically, who was putting away gear. She looked back and it took off, and it took off really, really fast. It went horizontally at a high rate of speed to the point where she could barely keep her eyes tracking on it until it disappeared, probably within about a second and a half. It didn't vanish. It just got so far away she couldn't see it anymore. And so some of the things on this case that are particularly interesting is that she said had she had her rifle, and it was a deer, she probably would have took the shot. So this is somebody who knows the topography of the land and who's very good at judging distance. And so those two things were really, really important and really added a lot of credibility. There are many cases that we have in our files of these glowing orb type things that just suddenly move so fast that it couldn't possibly be man-made, or they move at right angles and with velocities that are just incredible. And so that was a case that recently came up that I really do find fascinating, and that one does have a disposition of unknown.
Wow. Why, or let me ask you this, what makes a good case?
Well, witness credibility.
Yes.
Witnesses being able to differentiate things like azimuth and distance and all of these things. Witnesses that are used to looking at the sky. If it's in the sky, that particular case, it wasn't in the sky. There was hills, kind of a ridge beyond, and it was between her and this ridge. So we know it wasn't in space. Those are some of the things, but really one of the things that I find is when they've seen it with their own eyes, especially if they've had another witness with them, but it doesn't necessarily have to be somebody else seeing it with them. And they seem coherent and rational. Their first guess is it's not, the Palladians. And it's okay if somebody's really used to seeing a certain type of craft or being and feels that that's where it's from. That's a different scenario, but sometimes people will jump to conclusions. And so when they're second guessing themselves and they're saying things like, you're going to think I'm crazy, but that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest tip off. They're rational. They're like, this isn't normal. I don't know what this was. And they're naturally curious and want to know what it is. They're not looking to make money off of it or fame or anything like that. So those are the things that I really look for.
I love it. How about you, Jer? What are you looking for in a great case?
All of that and some physical evidence. We had a case that happened. It happened 50 years ago, but we were lucky enough to actually go out in the woods and check out the area. There's a place in northern Minnesota. There's a 16-foot circle on the ground where nothing grows, and nothing has grown in over 50 years there because something either hovered over it or landed there. It's a pretty wild story, actually. This gentleman and his friend, they're teenagers. They're out in the woods near their home, just kind of playing, having fun. Actually, it's kind of by a field. They had built a shack there, shed, whatever, and they were just out one evening doing their thing, what young kids do, and they saw this light in the sky, and it started coming towards them. They didn't know what the heck it was. So they ran and jumped into the shed, and as they're sitting in the shed, this thing was right behind them. I mean, they could see the light coming through the wood slats and the nail holes and everything. They said it lasted like maybe 15, 20 minutes, and then it was gone. Well, you fast forward a year later, and now those same two people and a younger brother are out in that same shack. It was actually a 2-story shack. It must have been pretty nice. They're up in the upstairs in the loft area of this thing. They're sleeping out there overnight because, what else do teenagers do in the middle of northern Minnesota, So they're out there sleeping. There's a window that they had. At some point in the middle of the night, all of a sudden it got really bright. Super bright. And of course, they're like, what in the world's going on? they heard something come in downstairs and start throwing things around, breaking things, crashing things. I mean, they're like, what the heck? Something's, tearing up our shack here, but they're not going down to check it out. Next thing you know, the younger brother who's sitting on the trap door that goes from the top to the bottom, he was laying on that thing. All of a sudden that trap door starts going, bouncing up and down like something's trying to get up to him. So they all hogpile on this guy, to keep it from coming up. The brother, or the guy that experienced it the year before, thought it lasted about 5 minutes. The brother who was getting bounced up and down thought it lasted maybe 20, 25 minutes. Well, nobody was going to sleep, obviously, after all of that. So however long it lasted. The light went away. Everything got quiet downstairs. Well, they were up the rest of the night and scared to death to go downstairs. So as the sun started coming up, they finally got enough courage to go downstairs and see what in the world was going on. So they climbed down the ladder, get down to the main floor there, and there was nothing tossed about. Everything was right where it was supposed to be. Nothing was broken. Everything was just fine. So they go back to their house, and the older brother grabs a bulldozer. I don't know the whole story there, but they had a bulldozer available. He got the bulldozer and bulldozed the shack down. That was the end of it. And the thing is, when we talked to him back, and this was like 2021, Ann and I went out there to investigate this thing, and he brought us out to the spot. That's the first time he'd been out there in 50 years to that spot. And he just was not going to go back out there at all. But for some reason, he was able to let us go out there and check it out. So we did some soil samples, did the whole investigation thing. And it ends up that the soil, now granted, it's been 50 years. So we got to remember that. But in the lower levels of the soil, there was excessive carbonite, which just means that the soil was heated up really hot. So I asked him, I says, do you remember there being a burn mark here or anything like that? And he's like, dude, I have no idea. I just tore this thing down and that was it. I never wanted to go back. So that one there was pretty good. I thought that was an enjoyable one to do.
Have either of you ever had stories come in from people where they have been followed by UFOs? Where, maybe they're out for a jog or out hiking or driving down the road like Betty and Barney Hill, and all of a sudden their vehicle gets pulled over and they're taken. And I see you nodding your head there. Tell us a story about that.
Well, we have lots of reports of UFOs following vehicles primarily. So I do know of one where it was following a train, and I'm not sure on how valid that one is, but there's many, many reports of UFOs following vehicles. Lots of people have had missing time experiences with that. We had a case in North Dakota a couple of years ago where somebody felt like they were being followed by something. And then, North Dakota doesn't have a lot of trees, but this particular area was treed. It was up by the Canadian border, actually, of Manitoba. And once they came out of the trees, they actually witnessed behind them a UFO following them. And then they don't remember anything. And all of a sudden they were at home in their bed and they couldn't figure out why. And so that was a ERT case, actually, primarily. And I'm not sure, I don't recall at this moment if they did a UFO report as well, but that was a particularly interesting one.
That has to add to the PTSD of it all if they're following you. I mean, Jerry, I couldn't imagine what that would be like. Like, I've had some pretty cool UFO encounters, but thankfully, I don't know how I would react if I was being followed or stalked by one.
That would be pretty intimidating, I would say. I talked to one person that did happen to. They were living in the cities. This is in Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul area. Again, this is back in the 60s. And this person was coming home from a friend's house. He was walking by a cemetery, and they just stopped. They felt like somebody was watching them. Well, up over their left shoulder, they looked up and they saw your typical flying saucer, lights going around the side, things probably 50, 60 feet wide, something like that. Well, they continued to walk because they didn't want to show fear. So they just kept walking, got down to the major intersection about a block and a half from their house. And at that point, they lost it and just took off and went home. You know, grabbed the mom, said, "Hey, Mom, there's something going on out here. You got to come see it," you know, drug her out there. And this is kind of the sad part, but again, it was the 60s, so I can kind of understand this. They get out there, they point at the flying saucer, the UFO, and they says, "Mom, what is that?" And the mom looks at this person and says, "I don't know, but don't ever talk about it again." And they never talked about it again. That was it. They went back in the house and never spoke of it again. And this person just wanted to get that off their chest. That actually came in about a year and a half ago. About a year ago, I think. So, yeah.
Have either of you had cases? Because the obvious question then is missing time. You know, because something usually happens. If you're being followed and you got some aliens chasing you on your butt, like Smokey and the Bandit, obviously you're going to get some missing time. But have you ever met people who got away? That all of a sudden the craft took off and didn't bother them. There's no missing time. There's no encounter or anything. Have we had that happen?
Yes. Yes, in fact, I've had that happen to me.
Oh, really?
So, yes, actually. Back when I was a teenager, I was with two of my friends, and we were walking. It was at night. It was shortly after dark, and we were walking along a street right next to a park. And in order to get home, we had to cross a small bridge. It was big enough for two cars to pass and had a sidewalk. And I felt like something was watching me, and I looked up over my shoulder, and by power line, there was a couple of these basketball-size, semi-translucent orbs, for lack of a better word. And so I told my friends, you know, run, and it started following us. And, you know, realistically, obviously it could have caught us if it wanted to. But we were running towards the bridge, running in the direction of home. And I looked over my shoulder and I yelled to one friend, "Watch out," because it was coming really fast, close to her head. And she looked and she ducked appropriately at the right time. So I know she saw it. And by the time we got to the bridge, they just took off down the creek. The bridge was over a creek. And so instead of continuing to follow us, they left and they went down the creek. And very similar to what Jerred said, you know, my friends were like, "What the heck was that?" And I said, "I don't know, but you don't want to end up inside one." And I don't know why I said that, to be honest. I've always wondered why I said that. And full disclosure, this was not a situation where I was very, very afraid. This was much more teenage rebellion. It's like, I don't want to do what you want me to do. You need to go away. I wasn't very freaked out. I was really annoyed and kind of embarrassed, to be honest. And my friends, however, were very freaked out. My one friend was in tears. It was a big deal for them. But for me, it was like, I'm not going to do what you want me to do. You need to go away. Let's run away from it, like that would even be possible. So yes, I've definitely had that experience myself.
Man, I don't know what I would do. I mean, there are times we're coming out of the forest and literally you feel that something in the sky is following you. And I am addicted that when I'm out on the research, that I'm always watching a clock. I'm always watching my phone or my watch or something, because I just want to make sure that nothing happens. That all of a sudden, goes from 7:30 to 9:45 without even letting you know about it, But it is a freaky concept that people have missing time and that people can all of a sudden lose track of where they are or can't remember how they got from their vehicle 30 miles from home, and now they're laying in their bedroom trying to figure out how the heck they got their clothes off and crawled into bed in their pajamas. It is so weird, but we're going to talk more about the experience, some of the stories and cases you guys are covering. A great night of UFO radio tonight. We got Jerred, we got Anna. They are from Northland UFO, Northland MUFON, covering North Dakota and northern Minnesota. They're great to report your UFO stories to. We'll be back on Spaced Out Radio for Hour 2.
This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
All right, guys, we are clear. I'm going to put you both back in the green room for right now. I'll be right back in a couple of minutes. We got about 5.5 minutes, okay?
5.5? Okay, perfect.
Yeah. Be right back. Excuse me, everybody. We'll be right back. Hi, Commonwealth, Andrew. right, let's bring our guests back. There's Jerred. There's Anna. I'll put them back to where they were, just like that. Great show so far, guys.
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
Definitely.
Nobody on X, thank you for tuning us on in. And who else do we got here? Let's see. Hillbilly Herb, good to see you. The Dead Man, there was no sound because there was nobody in here. Usually we need people in here to have sound. B. Arthur, how you doing? All right. If you have any questions this hour, put them in capital letters. It's easier for me to see. Earth Trip, welcome to SOR Chat. And thank you tonight to our super chatters, Frankie B, Deborah Rooney, Mel WD40, and Kitty Caddywhack. Appreciate it. Hi there, Tartar Sauce. How are you? Some of the names people come up with are amazing. My favorite is Dry Toast. All right. We're coming back in 5 seconds. Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Our guests are Jerred Nelson, Anna Scott. We're talking UFOs over North Dakota and northern Minnesota. Great show tonight. Hey, I want to say hello to everyone tuning us in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Paduasoy. Paduasoy is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's bring in Jerred Nelson and Anna Scott. They are part of Northland MUFON that it takes cases of UFO sightings and extraterrestrial encounters from North Dakota and northern Minnesota. They are great guests here and very entertaining on this subject. Anna and Jerred, welcome back.
Thank you.
Glad to be back.
Man, hard to believe we're already at hour 2. That first hour flew on by.
Sure
Let me
did.
tell you, we're going to continue on here about some of the cases you guys are covering. Anna or Jerred, I'll just ask you this point blank. Out of every amount, let's say out of every 10 cases you get, how many actually involve ET encounters?
Wow, out of every 10? I'd
Or
say
100?
probably, very few. Very few. I mean, the experiencer ones we get, sure, but just the regular ones that come in, not too many that actually involve ET contact, mostly lights in the sky.
Okay, well, let's go down that road. What are people seeing in your area?
You know, we've been seeing a lot of spheres. Like we talked about earlier, the silver sphere about yay big. We've been seeing a lot of those lately. It's been kind of amazing. There was one down in McGregor not that long ago. There was one over by Fargo not that long ago. A few other places that escape my mind right now, but yeah, we've been seeing a lot of this. The sphere has been the go-to UFO lately.
Do you guys notice trends in people's sightings where, like you said, people are seeing a lot of spheres now? Well, you know, a few years ago, people were seeing rods, you know, these long cigar-shaped objects. People were seeing black triangles. They seem to come in trends. Do you think that's just people noticing it, or do you think that maybe these UFOs and whoever's captaining them are actually saying, okay, well, we're group Black Triangle. We've gone from North Dakota, and now we're going to go over to Idaho. Well, the spheres move into Minnesota and North Dakota. What do you think's happening there, Anna?
I think there's a lot of things happening. You know, realistically, I think that there's a lot of things that are misidentified. So we have that issue. A great example is the drone swarms that were all over the place not that long ago. Everybody was seeing drones, right? And some of them I think were very unusual drones, and I think others were very explainable things. So we have some of that. We definitely have the lights in the skies. And, with SpaceX and all the Starlink satellites, it's becoming more and more difficult to try and figure out what people are seeing. But as far as trends go, the interesting things are what doesn't fit with known phenomenon. So, for instance, those spheres. We have had a lot of spheres. I've seen spheres myself on right off of Lake Superior, actually. Had some photos of it. Of course, all you see is a dot, really. So there's not a lot you can do about that. But one of the things that I think is interesting is that it isn't just people on the ground, just average Joes and Janes, that see them. Our military is also disclosing some images that fit with what people are seeing. And so definitely the spheres are a big one. For quite a while, we had lots and lots of reports of triangles, triangle-shaped objects in the sky, kind of boomerang-shaped objects in the sky. And while we still get them, we don't get them as frequent as we used to. And so, one of the things that comes up is if there's many different species that are visiting us, they're probably going to have many different types of craft. So if that's the case, what we could be seeing is, one particular alien species with many different craft coming and doing something for a while and then leaving, just like we do in the jungle and the ocean and things like that. So that might be part of the reason.
Do you think then that the fact that we see these trends, Jer, is because maybe there is popularity within what is being covered on X or News Nation or other places? Because we went through the drone flap, like you said, Anna, and where everybody all of a sudden was calling everything in the sky a drone. And then we know there's copycats out there that will get out there and put their drone up in the air to kind of scare people a little bit, and they think it's funny. Okay, just a typical teenage prank. But when it comes to the unexplainable aircraft that are in the sky, do you think people know what they're even looking at, even though these trends may be saying? So they've got, say the spheres on their head. Well, that could be an orb. To other people, it's considered an orb. And it just goes in these trends because they don't know really what's flying in the sky. So they go with what they've heard.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think that influences it quite a bit. It's like we said earlier, you can have 5 people witness the same thing. You're going to get 5 different descriptions. So if they've got in their head, hey, spheres are the thing, people are seeing spheres all over the place. People are going to start seeing spheres all over the place, whether it's actually a sphere or not, or the orb. It could be a light in the sky. It could be a satellite going across it, 200 plus miles up. They're thinking it's an orb just, not that far away. Well, no, it's not. So, I think that influences a lot of what people see, and that's probably why we have, trends during certain time periods. I would definitely say, like Tic Tac. Since the old Tic Tac video came out, we get a lot of descriptions of Tic Tacs now, where people would just say, before they might have called it an orb, or they might have called it a spheroid or something, but it's just, right now it's a Tic Tac. So yeah, definitely.
I love the trends. Let's get to a question here from our audience. Let's start things off with Carrie here. What is the most intriguing UFO experience that you have been told that you believe happened? Jerred, let's start with you.
Well, that would be the 1971-72 UFO landing in northern Minnesota with that 16-foot circle of dead earth, dead grass, whatever you want to call it. I think that one is probably one of the more interesting cases that I've ever had the opportunity to look into, for sure.
And how about for you, Anna?
Well, I don't know that there's one specific one. There's some historical ones, there's some historical crashes. But as far as cases that I've actually been a part of the investigation, probably one that occurred last summer, and was reported by one of our field investigators. And he did have photographic evidence, and we were able to do some stack images and saw something quite unusual. And the movement of the object that he captured that looked like a sphere was unusual as well. So probably I would have to say that one that I've actually investigated.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's definitely a good one.
Let's move on to another question from our audience. Go to Caged on the Inside. Is this just for your region in Minnesota or North Dakota, only for those resources or reporting on the experiences? Or do you have resources referrals in other areas?
Oh, yeah, we definitely do. As far as investigating the physical objects, if you will, those are mainly North Dakota and Minnesota, overall Minnesota. Experiencers or abductees or whatever you want to call it, we'll get them from all over the U.S., I should say. So yes and no, I guess the answer.
And even farther beyond. So, I mean, as far as MUFON in general, we're international. So we're in every country pretty much on the planet. And the only challenge there is language barriers. So as far as the ERT, we are also in many, many countries. We have ERT in Canada even. And so the resources are really varied depending upon the location. We do have ERT resources in a number of different countries, though, not just in the United States.
What's the favorite part, Anna, of taking these reports? I don't know about you, but like I'm a guy who loves seeing trends. You know, how about yourself? I mean, have you noticed any trends as you study this? What gets you excited about it?
Ooh, so I've seen lots of trends. I definitely see some trends with experiencers and commonalities between experiencers. There's also commonalities between UFO reports as well. What gets me excited when I learn something new, I think, when I actually find something that's credible, that data I can use kind of as a foundation to build on.
What are some of the trends that you've noticed?
Well, with experiencers, unfortunately, some autoimmune conditions. So it's sad to say, but there is a connection somehow between having an experience with the phenomenon, not necessarily abductions or even seeing ETs, but experience with the phenomenon and health challenges. And of course, as a nurse, that's something that intrigues me both professionally and personally. But there's a very high rate of autoimmune conditions among experiencers, unfortunately.
How about for you, Jerred? Have you noticed any trends among sightings or abduction cases?
Well, exactly what Hannah just said, the autoimmune issues, I definitely have heard that. That's kind of a not a good trend, but it's there. As far as any other trends, honestly, I haven't noticed any solid trends because everything is just, every report is different. You know, every witness is, they might see some similar things, but overall things are different just about all the time. I mean, it's kind of nice when you get correlating information, or you hear one person told you this over here, but then you've done several cases and nobody's mentioned it. Then another person mentions the same thing. Well, then you know they probably did see something weird, you know, or the same thing maybe too. So, but as far as trends specifically, like I said, it's just the spheres that I've been seeing, or but I've been, been reported to us. But trends as far as the experiencer stuff, I haven't really noticed. I haven't gotten many experiencer reports lately, so I haven't been able to do them.
Are
But
experiencer reports down?
I don't think they're necessarily down. I just think that our team has grown a lot in the last 5 years that Anna and I have been on. I think Anna's been on it for 6. But our team has grown a lot. So the number of cases that we get obviously is diminishing because of that. Personally, the cases we get personally are diminishing. But the cases themselves, no, they're coming in pretty steady. Yeah, they had quite a few.
I've always wondered about that because even the people I talk to quite a bit about this subject say that they're not hearing a lot of extraterrestrial cases. They're seeing a lot of sightings have gone up, but the actual cases from abductees reporting them in seem to be down a little bit.
Well, a part of that too could be, MUFON's stance on that is if you're an experiencer and you report your experience, there's only less than, the number of fingers on my hand of people that are going to be able to see it, or read it or whatever. So we keep that information very close to our chest and, rest assured your audience there that if you have an experience and report it, no one's going to hear about it except you and me or you and Anna. And that's pretty much about it, so that could be a big part of it, just the confidentiality of the whole thing.
Funny comment from Race Fan in our chat room. If you are suffering from missing time and have a sore butt, then, well, I thought that was hilarious. Very cool. Very cool. All right. Let's go back to another audience question here. Let's go to Jose here, who is asking, have you ever heard of a case where the UFO spotted at one point appeared to have a tunnel going through it like a long hallway?
I've heard of that before, but I haven't had a case like that myself.
I don't understand the question.
Well, I'm assuming this means that maybe I'm going to interpret this. People who've gone on craft, say they see an orb out their window, they get taken into the orb, and then when they get into the craft, they enter that long tunnel, and it just seems to become really huge. I'm going to assume that's what he means. I'm not sure.
I have not personally heard that from any of the experiences that I've spoken to. I have heard that in passing, talking to other people, but not from any experiencers that I've spoken with.
All right, so let's move on to another question here. Let's go to Julia from the UK. Good morning, Julia. What do you think the ET's messages are? What do you think they're here for, Anna?
Well, that's a great question, and I think it depends on who you ask, but the overwhelming majority of people will say if they've gotten a message, it's been, be good to each other, don't destroy the planet, take care of our Earth, what's all we have, do not go to war, and definitely don't use nuclear weapons. Those are the mainstays of messages. And yeah, myself personally, for as long as I can remember, I've always been concerned about those things. I'm not sure where it started. Maybe it started from them. I don't know. But that's definitely the one message that we hear over and over and over again.
Yep, I concur. That is pretty much it.
Are most people who are having encounters, are they experiencing positive or negative encounters?
Gosh, it's both, honestly. I'd split that one probably 50-50. I talked to some people that the experience is just they don't ever want to have it happen. Well, okay, so no, here's an interesting thing, though. And I can't give you a number because I don't remember what it was. But the experiences, both good and bad, from experiencers, probably about 50-50, give or take. However, when asked the questions if they want these experiences to stop, a majority of them say no, they want them to continue. So figure that one out.
That's also kind of what the free experiencers report looked like too, except they were around 84% of people claiming that they wanted the experiences to continue. it's such a weird realm. We got about 4 minutes here before we have to go to break. At the bottom of the hour, Jerred Nelson, Anna Scott are here from MUFON talking about encounters. Let's go to James in our chat room. First time he's here, asking, what percentage of people do you think are making these stories up?
Not sure if Jer's froze there, so I'll go ahead and answer the question. Very, very small percentage. Less than 10%. In my experience, probably more like less than 5%. Very few are hoaxes. Usually we can figure out a hoax pretty quickly. So that you would think it would be a lot higher, but it's not. And luckily it's not.
How do you tell the difference between somebody that is hoaxing and somebody who is not?
That's where the interview is so important. So we verify who it is that we're speaking with, first of all. There's a number of different ways that we can do that to make sure that the person whose name is in the report is actually the person that we're speaking to. That's a big one. When we're talking with them, one of the hoaxes that we do get is people will put in a report and put in somebody else's name and contact information. And they'll be like, I don't know what you're talking about. And so then we have a pretty good idea that, okay, this was probably a keystroke hoax or something. Rarely do we have somebody that actually stages a hoax to get people to believe it's real. That's not something I've actually even had, but I know it does occur at a very low rate. But mostly really just talking with them. You can usually tell if somebody's making it up. Their story won't be consistent. There's lots of little tells. I don't want to give away all of our little points that we use to determine that, but there's lots of little tells that will let us know that, hey, something's not quite right here.
2 minutes to go before we got to go to break. I'm curious, Jer, how many of these sightings are people having around military bases?
A lot of them occur around the military bases. I mean, Anna's probably more suited to answer this one because we don't have a whole lot of military bases in Minnesota, but a lot of them happen. So, I mean, here in Minnesota, I'm going to say that maybe 20% will be around a military base, if that, because there aren't very many bases here and, the place is so big. But because of the important nuke bases that are over in North Dakota, a majority of those sightings are near the bases. But then you have to caveat that with that's probably where the majority of the population is at. You have a lot between the Minnesota and North Dakota border, but you also have Grand Forks, which is a big military base. Then you got Minot over there, which has all the nukes or, missile silos and stuff, and the oil fields and stuff. So you have a big population there, so you're going to get a lot of reports. So it really kind of depends upon where the reports are going to come in. I hate to throw it off that way, but
there's another thing I would add to that if we have time, but
we got a minute.
So one of the things that I've noticed in doing investigations in North Dakota is that back in the 60s and 70s, during the height of the Cold War, when all of these installations were being really built or fortified or enlarged somehow, there was a huge impact on the people that surrounded those areas, the people that supplied those areas. They were very much told, you don't talk about anything that you see. It's a matter of national security. You need to be a patriot. And if you see something unusual, you don't talk about it because it's us. And so trying to break that barrier is a challenge. And what I will hear is I will hear a lot of people talk about really strange things that they've seen.
Hold that thought. We'll come back. We got Anna Scott and Jerred Nelson for another half hour.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
Polly Rodeman, how are you today? Hope you're doing well. We are clear, by the way.
Right on.
Yeah. It happens every half hour. We are clear.
Are you hearing any scratching in the background?
It might be my beard when my beard hits my microphone.
My new cat is desperately trying to get in the room. So,
No, we're not hearing any of that. Bring the cat
Okay.
in. Let's see the kitty.
I don't know.
Oh, we have a cat sighting. We have a cat sighting.
Now it's going to want to get out.
Yes, now it's going to want to get out since I closed the door.
Yep, there it goes.
Just a quick check on Ma. That's it.
Yep.
Nothing more, nothing less.
Well,
Somewhere
her food dish is usually in here. So,
Got you.
yes, and I put it out there, and she probably wants more food. She's a big girl that I just adopted from the Humane Society.
Nice. Sherry Diane, how are you?
Yeah, someone in the chat asked about if we've heard of people getting downloads, and the short answer to that is yes. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Who doesn't like a good download?
That's right.
Depends on who's doing the downloading, I think.
Yeah.
Right?
I can't tell you what the information is because I don't know, but yes, I have heard of people getting downloads. So
If they could just give me calculus or something
yeah,
useful.
Right.
something useful.
Quantum mechanics, how about that? Just
Yeah, that'd be nice.
I got this in a download.
Nice.
Yeah. It has meaning. I just forgot about the meaning. Something to do with the Herkiba diamond or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, Jack Sarfati told me about that.
So with all these UFOs and ETs that you're saying, you must have some pretty good stories then.
Oh, buddy, I could fill 6 hours.
Oh man.
Not even bullshitting you.
Wow.
When I opened up in 2011, a lot of my spiritual people that I was working with told me I got fast-tracked.
Okay.
And I've been hit with numerous multiple experiences, whether it's paranormal, whether it's intuitive, whether it's UFOs, aliens, Bigfoot. Yeah. It's slowed down a little bit over the last number of years. But if I'm around people who are in tune, I light up like a Christmas tree.
Sure.
yeah, it's interesting how you can experience all the different genres of the phenomenon. I grew up at the cabin hearing wood knocks, and there's all sorts of different things. And
yeah, like our adventure that we're on right now, I'm totally going off. I got haunted by this location since November, and we had to wait for the snow to melt in order to be able to get out there. And so we started investigating it in May, and here we are at the end of June. We're going back again this Saturday, and I've totally allowed the phenomena to dictate what's going on. And you know what? Whatever, I know the first 6 times that we're just supposed to sit there. And I think that's for whatever is there getting used to us. It really is an incredible story because I look at it this way. It's the plane crash site was the cause, but the effect is so much different. And I don't understand the effect of why everything is around there. I have theories, but they're impossible theories to prove. Good morning, sweet Tony D. So it's weird, man. It's weird. Like when I saw that UFO on the ground in 2023, I'd never seen a UFO like that. It was only about 8 feet high, and it looked like the outside of a number 8. And it was matte brown in color. Never seen that. So it's interesting. We got about 7 seconds here before we return.
Right on. I think I read about that shape recently.
I was thinking that too.
We're into the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. We have Anna Scott and Jerred Nelson till the top of the hour talking UFOs. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you for tuning us in. And I want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. From Northland MUFON, from North Dakota and northern Minnesota, we have Anna Scott, we have Jerred Nelson, and we are talking UFOs. And right before the break, we were talking about, craft people see and if they are around military bases. Anna, you're over in North Dakota where a lot of military bases are. The nuclear weapons are there. I mean, there's a lot going on. I had to cut you off last half hour, so I just wanted you to fill in on what we missed.
Yeah, well, basically I was just talking about how, back during the Cold War, when they were putting in all of these installations, the government was very clear to the people who lived in the communities that they needed to keep this secret. And so even today, trying to get people to actually report what they see, there's a lot of hesitancy because their first assumption is that, well, this must be some crazy thing that our government has. And if I talk about it, then I'm being unpatriotic, for instance. And so they hesitate to report stuff. And so while we don't actually see in our MUFON database lots of reports, I know that they're there because I've talked with people who will talk a little bit about what they've seen completely off the record. And there is definitely a lot more activity near the bases, particularly Minot, because they have a huge missile field there. I believe they have 350 warheads in that missile field out in western North Dakota.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. That's a lot. Do you think there's an attraction to the nuclear weapons?
Yes, 100%. Right from the Trinity explosion, there was reports of UFOs observing that. So absolutely, without a doubt, there is some sort of interaction or interest or something around nuclear weapons.
All right, let's move on to another audience question because we got quite a few. Let's go to Jaquetta. Do you think there are some people that see that these phenomena avoid?
Yes, I think most everybody. I think I did see another question too regarding consciousness. I think that there's definitely a consciousness aspect. And that's one of the reasons why only some people are able to see it or experience it. I don't know why they avoid certain people. I have some thoughts on structures in the brain and biochemistry and some other things that maybe make it easier to interact with our consciousness. But yes.
How about for you, Jer?
Yeah, I'd probably have to say the same thing. There are, probably certain people that either are not necessarily susceptible to their control mechanisms or something to that effect, or some people that they're just plain not interested in, and they'll just go for who they're working on, I guess. I know that doesn't make any sense, but...
Jose is asking, can MUFON accept older UFO sightings?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yep. We very often will investigate older cases. Like I was talking before, that one between 71, 72, and then I had another one in the 60s and another one in the 70s, and there's another one, 1969, which is really interesting. So, absolutely, yes. If you have an older case, report it, and we'd be more than happy to jump into it and try to figure it out.
What is evidence to you, Jer?
Wow, evidence to me is something that I can go out and verify. For instance, that dead circle, we were able to take the soil samples and be able to prove that something happened out there. That you would take the control samples where everything was fine, but inside the circle, you had the higher levels of the carbonite or the higher heat. So, I mean, that's evidence right there. If we had been out there earlier, like 50 years earlier, maybe we could have found some radiation or something like that, something to prove that something was there that's not ordinary. So that right there, obviously the physical hard evidence. As far as people's testimonies, that one's a little bit harder. Yeah, a lot of people are going to tell you the truth, and you can usually tell those that are going to sit there and tell you a story, and those are going to tell you the truth. But testimony may work in a court of law, but testimony doesn't really work for science. I don't know how else to explain that.
I understand that, though, but with the inception of AI becoming more and more realistic these days, and, CGI, editing, Photoshop, and everything, how can we trust that now over someone's word?
Yeah, that's the very difficult part. That's the $1 million question these days. With AI getting as good as it is, and it's only going to get better, it's going to be really difficult to distinguish the fake photos and fake videos from the real stuff. I don't know. Maybe, Anna, if you got some more on that, I don't know how else to say that, because you can look at the EXIF data on that stuff, but if it's, I don't know.
Well, and absolutely, Jerred. And when you see a video or image that's online, I don't even look at it anymore. I just pretty much dismiss it. Now, when we have a case and somebody is submitting the information, whether it be a video or photo, and they actually have the original on their phone or whatever they took it with, that's a little bit more interesting. There's a lot of information that oftentimes we can glean from that. Jerred mentioned EXIF data. EXIF data is great. It can be manipulated, unfortunately. So we need to be a little careful there. Within MUFON, we have some great photo analysts, and they can analyze photos and videos to look for common changes in the image, things like that might suspect that it's not what we think it is. But sometimes people will have, lots of data in there, including the latitude and longitude of where the image was taken. They'll have in the picture, you can see landmarks. Maybe it's a house or trees or a lake or something that we can use to try and figure out exactly where they were looking at. Those kinds of pieces of information, I would definitely consider to be some evidence. They're not always perfect evidence, but only really when it comes from the actual witness. Anything online, there's just so much CGI and so many hoaxes and things out there. The average person or even a very experienced analyst might not always be able to tell, if it's been manipulated or not.
I think that's why we have to get back to believing people. I mean, I think you guys know well enough and you're experienced enough to know if somebody's pulling your leg or not. I don't think I'm wrong in stating that, but, I think that's where we're heading. I mean, we can't obviously trust the government on this subject. AI is getting too incredible. I mean, look how we've moved since, remember, everybody was getting excited for ChatGPT, and now we're so far beyond that in the last 3 years. I mean, I don't know about you, but I mean, these Sasquatch videos that are out there with Sasquatch talking, they're everywhere. They're amazing. You know, it's
They're
sure they
pretty
look a
funny,
little
too.
cartoonish, but it's getting more and more real. And it's going to be tough to trust videos very soon. Let's go to another comment here or question from Sweet Tony D over in the UK. Are crop circles ever mentioned in abduction witness testimony? And do the investigators think, the investigators being you two, think they are related? Thank you for your work.
Hannah, you got anything on that one? I haven't done a crop circle.
Sure. Crop circles, I think we're seeing a lot less of them, or at least there's a lot less information about new crop circle reports. So I have heard of cases where there was some type of an abduction experience or interaction with UFOs or entities and crop circles in the area. I don't know that they're necessarily related. I think there's a real potential for the real crop circles because a lot of them are fake. I think there's a lot of potential for that. There are ways that you can investigate crop circles to determine whether or not they're fake or man-made, I should say, versus something that we don't know that created them. Jerry, if you want to add anything onto that.
Oh, yeah. It's as far as, like I said, I have never investigated a crop circle, but just looking at Linda Moulton Howe's work and a few other people, you can definitely tell a man-made crop circle versus an unknown made crop circle. So
yes, in that case from last summer that I was talking about, that one of our investigators put in, there were interesting depressions in the crop. There was the sighting happened out in the farm fields, and there was a big section where there was corn, and then there was another section where there was soybeans, and there was clearly some depressions that I couldn't quite make out what the shape was, because right in this area it's very, very flat, but I could see that there was depressions. By the time I was able to try and get permission to go on the property, because it was private property, unfortunately they harvested everything.
Wow.
So, that's the bummer of that. I did speak to one of the farmers, and he didn't notice anything in his field, but he said he might not have anyways, just from his perspective. So
I got a question for you in regards to the latest Wall Street Journal articles about the U.S. government and coming out saying the majority of these craft are ours, and including the black triangles. How much do you now have to change your game as investigators on what might be a UFO and what might be a UAP? Jer, start with you.
I haven't read those Wall Street Journals. I heard about them, but I haven't read any of those articles yet. For me, it really doesn't change a whole lot, because it's not necessarily just the craft itself. It's kind of the whole story on how it was seen or how it was, photographed or whatever. Taking into account where they're at, what it's doing, that type of stuff. There's no doubt in my mind that, yes, we have that stuff. Whether it's the triangular craft or whatever. Overall, I think our craft, the man-made craft, are more crude, and the ET's craft are more sleek and one piece, if you will. So it's just, it doesn't really change it that much for me, because I'm still looking into all of it.
How about for you, Anna?
So I've only read parts of the Wall Street Journal's articles, only because I'm not interested in paying for the full article. But that opens up a whole can of worms right there with what the government is saying, whether or not it's true, misinformation, disinformation. Certainly, I fully agree with Jerred. There's lots of aircraft and and aerial stuff that the U.S. government has that is misinterpreted as UFOs or UAP. I don't personally see much of a difference between UFO and UAP. I see them as the same thing. I know the trend is to move towards UAP, and I still say UFO. But
Well, the reason why I differentiate, and a few of my audience members don't like this, but I will mention it to you. The reason why I differentiate is a lot of the insiders that I talk to will tell you that UAP are man-made objects that are hidden as UFOs, and UFOs, they don't know what they are.
Well,
or they don't want to talk about it.
My understanding of the whole UFO UAP thing, it has to do with the semi-disclosure that we've gotten with the government saying, yes, okay, this stuff is real. We don't know what it is, which I think is a bunch of bunk. I think they know exactly what it is. But UFO carries a larger stigma to it, whereas UAP, since it's a new thing, aerial phenomena, it's got big words in it. It's kind of more acceptable than UFO. I still say UFO because it just makes sense, but I think a lot of that just has to do with the disclosure it's not really disclosure, but that part of it, trying to get rid of some of the stigma.
Mm-hmm. Well, I agree with you on that, but that is the public trend, but behind the scenes, it's still quite divided by a number of people. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, they probably don't even call them UAPs. They call them something else, alien reproduction vehicles, but I have no idea. I mean, it could be any myriad of things.
Let's get to another audience question here. Let's go to Polly. Do you recall any case where the experiencer feels a download in their head, seeing like matrix green falling numbers?
Not matrix green falling numbers, but downloads, yes. I can't tell you what any of those are because I don't know. I've never experienced one myself, but several of the experiencers that I've spoken to, yes, have received downloads, and they're still trying to make sense of it. They really couldn't communicate with me what it was. Anna, maybe you've had that experience or not. I don't know.
Well, not just like the matrix green falling numbers, but I think Jim Peniston is a great example of that, where his download was zeros and ones, and after touching the craft, and he could not get it out of his head, and finally he just started writing down the zeros and ones, and then once he did that, it slowed down. He says that it never stopped, really. It's always kind of in there somewhere, but yes, definitely. I think Jim Peniston is probably the best example of that. For those that aren't familiar with him, he was the person who touched the UFO in Rendlesham Forest.
It's amazing. I love that story, the Rendlesham Forest case.
Oh, it's a great story.
Let's go back to Mayhem here, who is asking, do you believe we were told not to come back to the moon? Little off topic, but we'll ask it.
I don't think that's off topic. I don't think so overall. I think that was just kind of a puff your chest type of thing. We can get to the moon before you can, and then now that we're there, it costs so much, let's back off. That's what I think. Were we told not to come back? Maybe, maybe not. But I think that was, at the time, I'm just going to have to go with, I think that was more a money thing from NASA. That's what I'm going to go with.
Money and politics. How about you, Anna?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. So the question is, by who? Who told us not to go back to the moon? That brings up, what are we actually doing on the moon, and the whole secret space program and all kinds of things that I find fascinating, but I haven't seen enough tangible proof. So I just leave that kind of question open. To answer that specific question, I'm not sure.
Carrie's asking, has anyone ever reported being abducted by reptilians?
Yep.
What's the difference?
Depends on who you ask.
Yeah, honestly, it really does. Some people have had some very positive experiences with the reptilians. Others not so much. Um, yeah, I don't know what to say other than that. You know,
Well, we're going to continue on that because I'm glad I haven't seen any. I'm glad. Between reptilians and dogmen, I'm dodging them great right now. Let's go to Polly again. Do you have any info on the praying mantis and any hybridization programs? Have you talked to people about that, Anna?
Not on the praying mantis, non-human entities. Not specifically to them. Definitely hybrid programs with the Nordic looking and even the tall gray aliens. I'm always looking for objective proof. And some of these topics, while I don't necessarily disbelieve them, I just don't have any proof to say one way or another. I think it's interesting, and I'm not quite sure how you would create a hybrid from a human and a praying mantis type entity. I think we're so different biologically that might be quite a challenge, but obviously, if they're able to get here, they have much better tech than we do. So who knows?
and I think that question was more, and this is how I'm taking the question, is there's two different things there. Hybridization program, yes, we've heard of that, and I got a story about that as well, which goes back to the 1971-72 story too, but I'm not going to get into that one. There was hybrids involved in that as well. The praying mantis one, I've heard of that before. They kind of seem to be like the ones that are in charge. So if you're, for whatever reason, you find yourself in a UFO for whatever reason, the mantis is usually the one that's in charge there. Not always. They're not always there, but when they are, they seem to be the ones that are directing traffic.
We got 2 minutes. We can sneak in one more question here, I think. And let's go to Ryan. Any chance? No, that's not a question. Let's see here. Let's go to Jose. Is there such a craft that you've heard of called the TR-4 Omega, or could this just be misinformation to confuse the public? It came up in a chat.
I haven't heard of that one. The TR-3, but I haven't heard of the TR-4.
Me either. Sneak in one more. Polly, where do you draw the line between your findings and the info you give to the public, and why?
As far as that, MUFON is really good about giving you the info, believe it or not. You can go on MUFON.com, MUFON.com, Project Aquarius. You can sign up for that, and all the reports, newspapers, all kinds of information is in there that you can look and see what we found out. As far as us investigators drawing the line on some information we have to kind of keep to ourselves so we can correlate that with other investigations that we do, or with Anna and I doing the experience or resource thing, talking to other experiencers so that we can kind of correlate stuff like that too. Things that are like dead giveaways where you're just pulling my leg and or you're not. So there is some information that I'm not going to give up, but overall MUFON is very good about getting you the information. So it's there. We're not really holding back anything.
Yeah, absolutely. And every month we have an in-person meeting where we do just that. We give information to the public on what we find out about the phenomenon. So there really isn't a line, other than, of course, we keep witness names and all of the, specific locations and things like that private, of course. We want to make sure that reasonably credible information we disperse.
Jerred, Anna, thank you for being on Spaced Out Radio. Once again, hour 3 of the show is coming up right after this.
Thanks.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
Sorry, I didn't mean to step on you.
Oh, that's all right. Great job tonight, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, you
Thank
bet.
you.
That was awesome. A lot of fun.
Yeah,
Thank
that
you.
was a lot of
Thank you for
fun.
having us again.
Oh, of course. And good luck in your research, what you guys do. It's important.
Yeah, we'll try to keep track of trends and everything else. So when you have us back, we can actually talk smarter about it.
Not a problem. Much love, guys. You take care and have a great night.
Thanks. You guys take care. Good night.
Thank
See
you.
you later. All right. Anna, thank you. Rainwater, how you doing? We're going to take a quick break here. I'll be right back. We have a little Timmy James here. What's happening, buddy? What is happening? Can you not hear me? You talk. You got something wrong on your end then. Turn your headphones up. Testing 1, 2. Reboot. We could hear his microphone. He's been playing on his system all day. Thank you tonight to Kitty Caddywhack, Frankie B, Deborah Rooney, and Mel WD40 for the super chats. Greatly appreciate the love. Here we go with the next half hour. Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you very much for tuning us in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone tuning us in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. What do you got for us tonight, Clam? You got Paduasoy. Paduasoy is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's head to the swamp.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight I'm going to take you on a mystic journey of the unknown, sharing tales of monsters, legends, and nightmares. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio Swamp. I went on a little hiking trip with my dad to Mount Shasta, California, a small town in Northern California near the Oregon border. Shasta is home to a potentially active volcano named, of course, Mount Shasta. There are many trails on Mount Shasta, so my father and I were excited to do some hiking. We drove up the side of the mountain to the parking lot in which one of the trails began. I believe it was called the Old Ski Bowl Trail. The landscape was a very barren incline, filled with rocks, boulders, dirt, and very few trees. About an hour into the trail, we came across a very odd assembly of these large boulders. They were arranged in a circle. We thought it was strange, but we continued. If you look up pictures of the trail, you'll see much smaller rocks arranged in patterns and circles. My father and I only encountered 3 people. At least, that's what they appeared to be at first. The first 2 were a father and son. We met them on a steep incline that went along the wall of the cliff, that when we would switch back, it would take you to the top of the cliff. We stopped and said hello, talked about the trail, and then went our separate ways. Here's where it gets weird. My dad and I started walking up the incline for about 2 minutes. I turned around and I saw the father and son were incredibly far down the trail, almost like they had teleported. It should have taken them at least 20 minutes to get down there from where they were. But somehow, in only about 2 minutes, they have gotten down way further than possible. To this day, I have absolutely no idea how that could have happened. There was no one else on that trail at that point, and I could see the color of their clothes from the distance, so I knew it was them. I pointed it out to my dad. We thought it was weird, but we didn't want to dwell on it, so we just kept on moving. And here's where it starts to get much weirder. As we reached the top of the cliff, there was another strange rock arrangement that was off to the side of the trail. This time, there were far more rocks than before, and they were now arranged in rows, almost like gravestones. We continued the trail and reached another sort of incline with a switchback to reach the top of another cliff. We reached a point where we would need climbing gear to continue, so we decided to head back. When we turned around, I saw a man standing among the rocks, staring at us intently. He was wearing a button-up shirt, cargo shorts, and a wide-brimmed straw hat. He was at a distance where I should have been able to make out his facial features, but it was almost like he didn't have any, like his face was just flesh and skin. I pointed him out to my dad, and the man quickly ducked down behind a boulder and was peering out at us over the top of the boulder. It seemed almost playful, like a child trying to hide. For a few moments, I was almost out of it. I have no recollection of what was going on. According to my dad, I just started walking towards the man in the hat. My dad was calling to me, "Joshua, Josh, what are you doing? Where are you going?" And then I came to. I was standing right at the edge of the cliff. It was a huge drop, enough to kill me or seriously injure me. My dad grabbed me and pulled me back onto the trail. He told me to stay put. My dad went down to the boulders to search for the man, but he wasn't there. There was nowhere for him to go except down or up the trail. It didn't make any sense. He just simply disappeared. I have no idea what was going on that trail, and I have no explanation for it. I've told this many times to family and friends, and no one has an explanation. I've done my fair amount of research and found similar stories about encounters with a man with no facial features wearing a hat. I've also read that Native American tribes from that area viewed Mount Shasta as a holy site. They believed it could act as a portal to other dimensions, and that it was guarded by spirits who would potentially harm anyone who tried to go up the volcano. If anybody has had any similar experiences or any insight at all, I would love to hear.
Thank you, Swamp Dweller, for another crazy, spooky story. If you want more just like that, head on over to YouTube, type in Swamp Dweller, hit subscribe, ring that bell, and do yourself a favor. Listen to a bunch of his stories. They are creepy, they are freaky, and they are fun. All right, let's get to the UFO report.
That is an interplanetary flying space saucer. You have made me very angry. Very angry indeed.
All right, we have little Timmy James hanging on out with us, and it's a UFO report. It's a shortened edition, but we're glad to have you here, little Timmy James. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Doing very well. And you?
I am doing great, my man.
Excellent.
Just great. You know, working on out and making things happen. You know, that's what we do around here. I added a couple of shorts on our YouTube channel today for
I saw those.
spookiness, and it's always good. Always good. What do you got for us tonight?
Well, I thought I'd start off with another little thing that I'd written up over the week here. You and I have been talking, and I get on these rolls, and they just stick in my head. It's like a broken record. I hear something, and it just keeps going on and on and on. So you and I have mentioned it a few times in the last week or so about, wondering what happened to all those cool stories and, those personal accounts and stuff like that. And I kind of was thinking about it, and I was like chalking it up to, a lot of people are still just don't want to tell their story. So got deep thinking about that and came up with a little blurb here. So what I saw was the pursuit of truth about UFOs has long been a solitary journey. For believers and experiencers, those who've seen the inexplicable and felt its weight, the fear of ridicule often forces them into silence, hiding in the shadows of a world that demands proof over personal accounts and experiences. Yet, as government reports acknowledge unexplained skies and Navy pilots share footage of objects defying physics, the time is perfect to bring these voices into the light. The challenge before us is pretty clear. How do we, as a community of believers and experiencers, develop connection over isolation and build a movement that welcomes the wary without any judgment? So the first hurdle I felt was trust. For every person who's watched something unidentifiable dance across the night sky or felt that eerie hum of something unknown, there's a story that most of them hesitate to tell. Society's smirks, has conditioned them to expect dismissal, or worse, ridicule. To coax them out, we must create safe havens, spaces where their accounts are met with curiosity, not cross-examination. Local meetups, virtual forums, private discussion groups, or even shows like this can serve as sanctuaries. These spaces must prioritize empathy over evidence, well, at least at first. A person sharing a life altering encounter for the first time doesn't need a skeptic's checklist. They need a listener who says, I hear you, or you're not alone, or I've been there. Trust grows when vulnerability is honored and not dissected. But trust alone isn't enough. We must also tear down that isolation that festers in secrecy. Too many experiencers live as islands, replaying their moments in solitude, haunted by questions they fear to talk about. Community counters this by weaving individual stories into a collective tapestry. Imagine gatherings where a farmer from Kansas hooks up and meets a teacher from Tokyo, each realizing each other's experiences echoes another's. These connections humanize a phenomena, transforming it from a personal burden into a shared quest. Organizers can host Skywatch events or even roundtables over a cup of coffee, where the focus isn't just on what's out there, but on the people here, bound by the awe of uncertainty. Such moments remind us that the unknown isn't just above us, it's among us, in the courage to speak. To truly develop community, we have to confront the gatekeeping that plagues this field. Some believers, hardened by years of skepticism, demand newcomers prove their credentials or align with specific theories, be it extraterrestrial origins or interdimensional visitors. This purity, in quotes, testing drives people back into hiding. Instead, we should embrace a better approach, welcoming diverse perspectives without forcing consensus. The experiencer who saw a triangle of lights doesn't need to agree with the believer studying declassified documents. Their common ground is curiosity, and that is enough, or it should be enough. By valuing inclusivity over traditional beliefs, we signal to those in the shadows that there's room for their truth, whatever shape it takes. Yet building community also means equipping people to navigate the world, a world quick to exploit and dismiss their claims. The UFO field is a minefield of hoaxes, sensationalisms, and grifters peddling fear and or fantasy. Newcomers need guidance to differentiate signals from noise. Not to become cynics, but to become contributors. Mentorship can bridge this gap. Veterans sharing how to document sightings, cross-reference data, or engage with scientific inquiry. Empowering experiencers with tools like apps for logging encounters or access to public domain military reports turn passive wonder into active participation. When people feel their story matters to a larger puzzle, they're less likely to retreat into their own silence again. Finally, we must tap into a deeper pull of why people stay silent. The fear of losing their credibility in a world that values normalcy. To bring them out, we need to reframe UFO belief as a badge of courage, not a mark of a wacko. Share stories of pilots, scientists, or lawmakers who've risked reputations to speak out. Highlight how questioning the skies is a profound human act, just like when they were looking to see what was up in the sky, or when they were charting the seas for the first time. By celebrating this shared humanity, we invite those hiding to see themselves not as outliers, but as explorers. The shadows are full of voices waiting to be heard. As believers and experiencers, our task is to light a path, not with demands of proof or promise of answers, but with the warmth of community. When we listen without judgment, connect without gatekeeping, and empower without exploiting, we build something stronger than belief. We build belonging. The skies may hold mysteries, but the real revolution begins here, among those brave enough to step forward together.
I like it. I think it's an important message, and it's very Dr. Phil-like, so good
Well,
job on that.
thank you.
Well, you got the same cranium as him, so.
For sure.
But
Thanks, buddy.
no, you're right. I mean, there's nothing wrong with anybody having a differing opinion.
No.
You know, I mean, you can sit there and try and analyze the differences. I mean, example, a lot of people don't agree with me about my stance on UAP versus UFO. And I'm quite okay with that. They're allowed.
Of course.
They're allowed. I'm going by what my research has taught me. They're going by what their research has taught them. And you know what? That's okay. You can converse about it. You can even discuss, debate it. But when it turns into hate, Phil, that's where the issue lies. And for some reason, our field is rampant with that, man.
No, it really is. And it's too bad because, I mean, if you're standing on the outside looking in and you are an experiencer and you're holding stuff in and you want to talk to somebody and you're one of those people that want to sit back and observe and get to know and kind of see what's going on, watching that unfold and watching people go head to head and people cut each other down, why would you want to say anything to anybody? Right. And now do I have to pick a side? Like it's stupid. As far as I'm concerned, it's stupid.
You know, it's even worse than that at times, and people in the radio land who may not follow this very closely. But in this field, for some reason, if you upset the wrong people, they are coming after you. And they get a team of online people to come after you. Yeah, and they're going to try and dox you. They're going to try and dox your family. They're going to, some people have had their jobs called and said, you better fire this person from what they're saying online. Like, it is nasty. As someone who had an attempted doxing on them, you know, I kind of nipped that in the butt about a year ago when somebody who was a former guest on this show didn't like me. So decided that he was going to come after me by going to my listeners to try and steal our listeners, especially on our YouTube side, by saying, well, do you know that Dave works in this community and this is Dave's real name and this is Dave's, you know, this is where he lives and this is where he works, right?
Jeez.
And so I had to come on air and say, look, yeah, that's what I do. You know, I like my privacy. And you know what? Our audience, being as cool as they are, they're like, yeah, no, it's not a big deal to us, but this is what was tried over UFOs, man. Over UFOs. And that is so much happening from just around the entire community. And this is why you're starting to see a lot more people pull away from the UFO/UAP debate.
Exactly.
And just start doing their own thing. You and I have talked about that, about Flight 21.
Yep.
We don't care if people believe us or not. That's up to you. You're allowed that opinion.
Of course.
You know, the picture of the potential Sasquatch in the tree. We know we tried to recreate that. We can't. No. But if people want to say it's pareidolia, or if people want to say that it's blurry, I can't see anything, which I don't understand when it's like right there. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, it's okay. It's quite okay. We don't have to agree on everything. And I guess what I'm saying is, it seems like there's a real lack of maturity in the field now.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like recess at elementary school sometimes. Not all the time, but it'll rear its head, and you're right. And it's like, what are we all arguing about? Or what's the argument about? There shouldn't be an argument. You know, respect each other's opinion. Yeah, I don't necessarily think that what Dave's saying here is in my zone, and I don't see it that way, but that's okay, because maybe, just maybe, I might learn something, right?
If anything, it gives you another element to your investigation.
Exactly. Right?
It really does. You know, I mean, but I think a lot of times we have troubles, Tim, with people who are brand new to the field. We've never heard of them, and they're coming in acting like experts.
Yeah.
And because they have a strong X game, or they have a strong social media game, it build, and they know how to build an influencer crowd, it immediately gives them ultimate credibility than those who have been here a long time. And I
Yeah.
think that's part of the issue with it as well, because people love popular people. They love influencers these days. And if you don't have the right amount of subs or the right amount of followers,
Yeah.
they're going to side with somebody who has 100,000 or 1,000,000 subscribers over somebody who has, like we do, 28,238.
Well, with all those subscribers, they must know more, and that's the misconception. It's technically that's not even the case, as as you just stated, right? I'm sure that and I'm not blowing smoke up your behind, but a lot of stuff and a lot of people, and you know deep. You can go deep into stuff, and really get to meat and potatoes. And I don't know if it's because people don't have the patience to sit and listen and learn, or is it the immediate I need answers now? I mean, I'm guessing. I have no clue. It's just a question, and I don't understand what's causing that either, because I'd rather listen to somebody that's had experience, talked about this, knows about this, than somebody that just popped onto the scene and has got a real cool thumbnail.
Right. But there are people out there in our UFO world who literally could blow the socks off of what I know. They know more in their pinky finger than I do in my entire body on UFOs and the inside, or what's going on, or the experiential side.
Sure.
And they don't have the following. And that's quite okay. It doesn't mean that because I have more subscribers or followers that I know more than them. That's not the case at all. But in today's direct society where your subscribership and the amount of views that you get are more important than the information, that's part of the reason why we see this trend happening, I believe. I mean, you get somebody, say, with 58,000 subscribers on YouTube, or pardon me, on X, and they're doing an X space for 4 hours a day, every day, they're going to explode.
Yes. Oh, for
right?
sure.
They're going to explode in popularity, that is, not as a spontaneous human combustion. But that's just some of the things that I've noticed in regards to it. And once again, it's okay to disagree. It's okay to have differing opinions. But for some reason, recently, the attacks that are getting personal on people, it's getting out of hand. It really is.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. And I think we need to sit back and think about that. Is that the way you treat somebody in your family? Is that the way you might treat a kid, one of your kids? They come up and they question and they ask, and I've had them with my kids and debate with my family. But I would never think of treating somebody like that because they don't have the same view that I do. You're right. It's insane.
You got that right. But you know what? On the flip side, I can tell you this. On a positive level, if you pull away from the drama, it's so much nicer. It's so much more relaxed, and you get real conversations with real people on the phone, or on this show, or on social media conversation.
Yep.
And it's just that much easier.
Oh, agreed. Roll the windows down and take the top down. Yeah, that's the no drama.
No, not at all. And you know what? Leading in my Dave 101 tonight, it's about positivity.
Isn't it Wednesday?
Oh yeah, that's tomorrow night.
Yeah, if you want to do it tonight, go ahead.
No, I'm a day behind.
A day? Yeah, that's okay.
I'm totally a day behind right now.
I got more stuff, so we're good.
Well, that's why I've been debating this, because I thought literally today was tomorrow. But apparently it's today. Wow. All right. We'll continue the UFO report right after this.
This is Spaced Out Radio, and your host, Dave Scott.
I totally blew that.
No, that's okay.
Totally
When
blew
you first
that.
said it on the abbreviated version, I was like, did I miss something?
Yeah. I totally thought today was Thursday.
Oh,
I've got all my
sorry.
news ready as well.
See?
Well,
Now
I'm
you're
going to
prepped
get
for
rid of
tomorrow.
that. I'm going to get rid of that because I don't need that.
Yeah, you're prepped
Oh,
for
man.
tomorrow, man.
Well, I'll shut my computer off and I'll lose them anyways.
Oh, no.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not one of these people who leaves my computer logged on every night.
No, I get you.
Man. Oh, wow.
All right.
Oh, well.
Just means you got to put up with me for another half hour.
Oh, man. If that's what I have to deal with, then I'm doing okay.
Flattery will get
How
you
was your
every-
day today?
What's that?
How did it end up? Did you get everything accomplished?
Yeah, I got a ton done. A ton of stuff done. But it was, yeah, I had those. It was phone calls and phone calls and phone calls while I was trying to get the other stuff done and nonsensical questions. I'm just going to leave it at that. Oh, yeah. But other than that, it was good. And you had the day off because I could tell because I saw the reels coming up.
Yeah. I realized that no pun intended, realized I couldn't do them. You can only do the YouTube cuts like that on your phone.
Oh, really? Huh. Thought you could do it online, but
It's hump day. Of course, everybody got humped today, Deb. She tries to be so suave. It just cracks me up.
Deb is
cracks me up.
She's El Caliente. She's spicy tonight. Right off the
spicy.
Spicy.
She's
Right off the
spicy
bat.
meatball, that one.
Yeah, she was fired up and ready to go before the show even started. I was reading the chat. I was like, uh-oh.
Got like 3 minutes.
Oh, okay. Oh. Video is coming along nicely.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that we didn't expect?
Not really. Not that I can actually confirm yet. But no, I don't know. There's something weird about, surprise. There's something weird about that place because I don't ever have problems with my camera. And not that we've lost anything or anything, but it sure acts up when we're up there. We get some, I think some electromagnetic pulses or something that kind of screw up every once in a while. It's like, what the heck is that? I'm going through it. And I was like, where did that come from? Then it comes back.
That's good stuff. That's good stuff. Tim Mothman, we need a goatee update. Let us know. 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Beth Noyes super late after winning the gold medal tonight.
Did Tim Mothman go to the casino tonight?
I don't know.
He shows up late. That's usually what he's doing. Oh, sorry. I wasn't supposed to say that.
T-Bone, Evander Kane's going to play great for the Canucks. Good Vancouver boy.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be awesome. I'm just surprised that they signed a Canadian player.
No kidding. I ran into him at Boston Pizza in Richmond. That kid's big, man.
Yeah. All right. Big thank you tonight to Deborah Rooney ×2, Mel WD40, Frankie B, and Kitty Caddywhack for the great super chats. Greatly appreciate the love and support. If you're new here, do us a favor, hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, and we go from there. I still can't believe I thought it was tomorrow.
That's all good.
Yeah, weird. All right, we got about 15 seconds. Seven seconds. Here we go with the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Now that we know what day it is, we're going to continue with the UFO report. My name is Dave Scott. This is Spaced Out Radio, and you're loving the UFO talk. I could tell. There's nothing uneasy about this conversation tonight. It's great. All right, let's remind all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, our archives are always free on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. He's Tim James. I'm Dave Scott. This is the UFO Report. And, Tim, what else you got for us tonight?
Well, Jeremy Corbell's back in the news. I mean, probably took just a couple of days off, but in a recent interview, Jeremy Corbell presented statements from a first-hand UFO whistleblower igniting fresh controversy over the Pentagon's handling of UFOs. The whistleblower alleges that Arrow, established by the Department of Defense in 2022 to investigate UAP sightings, uses carefully crafted language to obscure the truth about potential extraterrestrial encounters. According to the whistleblower, when Arrow claims there is no evidence of extraterrestrial origin, it is not necessarily lying, but employing semantics to mislead the public. The whistleblower's statement, as relayed by Corbell, suggests that Arrow's public reports may omit critical details or frame findings in ways that downplay the significance of UFO incidences. The source, whose identity remains protected due to non-disclosure agreements and fear of reprisal, claims to have direct knowledge of UFO-related programs. They assert that Arrow's language is designed to maintain plausible deniability while shielding sensitive information, potentially including evidence that could point to non-human technology. This revelation comes amid heightened scrutiny over Arrow's credibility. A 2024 report from the office concluded that no UFO sightings represented extraterrestrial technology, a finding that drew criticism from some lawmakers and researchers who accused Arrow of lacking transparency. The whistleblower's claims align with broader concerns that the Pentagon has historically used disinformation, as we all know, to obscure classified programs, as revealed in recent reports about Cold War-era tactics like the fabricated Yankee Blue project, which falsely briefed Air Force personnel about alien spacecraft. Corbell, speaking on behalf of the whistleblower, emphasized the need for congressional oversight to address these allegations. He referenced 3 additional government insiders who are reportedly prepared to testify under oath at future UAP hearings, potentially shedding light on discrepancies in Arrow's reporting. The filmmaker called for greater public access to unclassified data, arguing that the use of vague terminology undermines trust in government institutions. The Pentagon has not directly responded to the whistleblower's specific claims, but has reiterated Arrow's commitment to rigorous science-based investigations. A spokesperson for the Department of Defense stated that a follow-up report expected later this year will provide further details on UFO investigations, including efforts to address historical disinformation. Skeptics argue that the whistleblower's allegations lack concrete evidence and could fuel speculative narratives. However, proponents of the UFO disclosure see the claims as a critical step towards unraveling decades of secrecy. As public interest grows, the debate over Arrow's role and the government's candor remains a focal point for those seeking answers and about what may be transversing our skies.
Jeremy is always going to be in the news. He loves this subject. He has his sources, and he, sometimes I'd like to ask him this one day.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if he likes the hate. I wonder if he feeds off the dislike a lot of people have for him. I always wonder about people like that. He's kind of like, the pest in hockey.
Mm-hmm.
That goes on the ice, stirs it all up, and then skates to the bench while the rest of the team has to clean up the mess and do the fighting.
Cliff
I wonder
running.
if Jeremy is like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I really don't know. But he is right on a number of things, that there is something going on within the government right now, and there is a great debate going on the problem of this subject. I mean, if you take Mike Collins today, okay, who the Republican congressperson, formerly of the Gang of Eight, who literally helped shut down the Schumer Rounds bill for UFOs in 2023 and in 2024. Okay, he comes out today basically saying that today is the anniversary since 1997 with the report of Roswell officially being a weather balloon. I'm sure you're going to get to that story here in a little bit, and we could discuss that. But, making fun, like it was a complete snide comment towards the UFO community.
Right.
Whereas somebody like Jeremy Corbell sees right through that. He is somebody who is trying to get the message out, albeit many people will disagree with how he's doing it or the videos that he is securing to get out, but he's doing his best.
Mm-hmm.
He is doing his best on that note.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And he, how do you put it? He is very predominant, and I don't know. It's not that I wouldn't say I dislike Jeremy. I just find him to be somewhat abrasive at times, and I don't know. I feel a little bit of ego in it, but I think overall I see him doing a lot and putting a lot out, and it seems to be, and it appears to be, that he puts his neck out at times, and and that's okay. And I think he's ready to take it on the chin if he needs to as well. So, and that's what we need. I mean, again, like we said at the beginning of the show, you don't have to agree with the person, but listening to him and stuff like that, he does make some good points and make some good claims, and I respect that.
Yeah, I do too.
Mm-hmm.
I do too. And look, you don't have to like the messenger. You don't even have to like the message, but
Nope.
At least he's doing his part.
100%. 100%.
Let's move on.
All righty. So, on this day in history. So, it was on this day in 1997 that the U.S. Air Force released a comprehensive report titled The Roswell Report, Case Closed, aiming to put an end to decades of speculation and conspiracy theories surrounding an alleged extraterrestrial spacecraft crash in Roswell, New Mexico in 1947. The report addressed one of the most enduring mysteries in American history, firmly dismissing claims of a UFO cover-up. In July of 1947, reports surfaced that a flying disc had crashed on a ranch near Roswell, fueling widespread intrigue about extraterrestrial life. The U.S. military initially confirmed the recovery of a flying disc, but quickly retracted the statement, claiming the debris was from a weather balloon. This reversal sparked theories of a government cover-up, with many believing the military had recovered an alien spacecraft and its occupants. The 1997 report, issued 50 years after the incident, provided a detailed explanation attributing the debris to a top-secret surveillance program called Project Mogul. This program used high-altitude balloons to monitor Soviet nuclear tests during the early Cold War. The Air Force asserted that the materials recovered, such as a metallic foil, rubber, and balsa wood, matched those used in the balloons. The report also addressed claims of alien bodies, suggesting they were like misidentified anthropomorphic test dummies used in separate military experiments in the 50s. The release of the report was met with mixed reactions. While it aimed to clarify the incident with declassified documents of scientific evidence, many UFO enthusiasts and conspiracy theorists rejected the findings, arguing that the government was withholding the truth. The Roswell incident remains a cultural phenomenon, inspiring books, films, and ongoing debates about extraterrestrial life. The Air Force's 1997 report marked a significant attempt to close the case on Roswell, but for many, the mystery endures, cementing the small New Mexico town as a symbol of humanity's fascination with the unknown.
And once again, you know, it coming down from the Congress people, because there were two Congress people who really turned it down.
Mm-hmm.
The Schumer-Rounds bill in 23 and 24. It was, I believe, Mike Turner and Mike Collins.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that was the name.
I think so.
And, yeah, Mike Collins. And Collins actually tweeted this today, if I can add to what you were saying. On this day in history, 97, the U.S. Air Force released a report dismissing claims that an extraterrestrial spacecraft crashed in Roswell, New Mexico 50 years earlier. In 47, a rancher found a shiny material which was passed along to the military. An initial Air Force statement described it as a flying disc, but that was quickly retracted, and later reports identified the wreckage as a weather balloon. Despite the official explanation, Roswell remains a hub for UFO enthusiasts and hosts an annual UFO festival each July. It's a total slap towards this. I mean, we're talking about people who also insulted, you know, veterans like David Grush. Love David Grush or hate him. He's still a veteran who put his life on the line and suffered severe PTSD coming out of the war zones. He has shot down in conjunction with Mike Turner, who happens to be the representative in Dayton, Ohio, where Wright-Patterson Air Force Base is. Okay, so there's a little bit of a linkage there. He was on the intelligence subcommittee. And look, they're all tied to black projects and the secrecy of the United States. They don't want this coming out. They're trying to poo-poo this subject. And Collins giving that shot. Well, let's break that down about Roswell for a second. There's been enough investigation and eyewitness testimony that came out over the last 78 years that there was debris.
Mm-hmm.
A weather balloon does not bring debris and scattered it over a farmer's field. Okay? Lou Elizondo stating, whether you love him or hate him, you don't bring a triaxial trailer to pick up a weather balloon. You don't bring a platoon of Army Rangers or Army soldiers to cordon off an area for a weather balloon.
Mm-hmm.
You don't threaten people's lives for a weather balloon. And those are all pieces on record.
Right.
This isn't Dave just making this up. It is all on record from the Roswell incident. So the fact that they are, you know, then he's given that little shot that they, you know, that they do their little touristy thing at the end where he says, and host an annual UFO festival each July. Who cares? The town survives off of every town survives off of tourism revenue.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Agreed.
I would love our town that you and I live in to embrace the paranormal a little bit more, because there is a lot of weirdness. And guess what? Our community could use the tourism revenue.
Oh, 100%.
That it would create. So I don't know why the shots.
No.
But there they are.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. And I still believe it happened. I don't care what anybody says. I believe the Roswell incident 100%.
Me too. Me too. What else you got for us?
Well, I guess some stuff came to light today about the Contact in the Desert. Did you hear about this? So at the Contact in the Desert event held in Indian Wells, California, between the end of May and the beginning of June, the Skywatch session became a flashpoint for debate when UFO researcher Kelly Chase directly challenged a claim by Chris Bledsoe. Bledsoe, a prominent figure in UFO circles known for his vivid accounts of extraterrestrial encounters, drew attention to an object in the night sky, proclaiming it an orb he had personally summoned through a meditative process. The claim, delivered with conviction to a crowd of eager attendees, was met with immediate skepticism by Chase, who calmly but firmly identified the object as nothing more than an airplane. Chase, a seasoned observer and host of the UFO Rabbit Hole podcast, stood her ground as she pointed out the object's telltale characteristics: steady lights, a predictable flight path, and the faint hum of engines consistent with conventional aircraft. Her assertion sparked a ripple of murmurs among the gathered skywatchers, some of whom were swayed by Bledsoe's charismatic narrative. Bledsoe, undeterred, doubled down, reportedly telling the crowd that believed the object was a plane could metaphysically make it a plane, a statement that left many puzzled and others openly skeptic. This esoteric response only deepened the divide between those seeking otherworldly phenomenon and those demanding empirical clarity. The incident didn't fade into the desert night. Post-event, analysis included flight tracking data and video footage corroborated by Chase's assessment. The object was identified as a Pilatus PC-12 turboprop, specifically flight FDY-808, operating at 23,000 feet. Independent researchers later conducted 3D reconstructions that aligned the plane's trajectory with the recorded visuals, cementing the mundane explanation. The episode underscored a broader tension in the UFO community: the pull between the extraordinary claims it fuel fascination and the rigorous scrutiny needed to separate fact from fantasy. Chase's candid call-out resonated beyond the event, sparking discussion online and at the conference about the importance of critical thinking in UFO research. For many, her willingness to confront a high-profile figure like Bledsoe head-on was a refreshing moment of intellectual honesty in a field often clouded with unveiling anecdotes. The contact in the Desert Skywatch, meant to unite enthusiasts in shared wonder, instead highlighted the ongoing challenge of balancing open-minded exploration with grounded reasoning.
This is touchy.
Yeah.
This is a touchy one.
Right.
I didn't even know that happened.
Yeah, it just came out. Well, I'm assuming from what I saw, it just came out today. Like somebody spilled the beans on it. But
that is juicy.
Mm-hmm.
See, this is the kind of juice that sucks me in. You know, when I'm thirsty for dramatics, this is the kind of juice I need to quench it. Chris Bledsoe is an anomaly in his own. He is a wonderful man.
Mm-hmm.
I've met with him. I've spent time with him at UFO Con back in 2020. That's the same weekend I met Science Bob.
Oh, okay.
And just a beautiful human being. Okay. Now, summoning can be tricky because I don't think Chris does anything out of spite or lie. He's just not that kind of person.
Yeah.
But I don't know if everything that he states is a UFO is actually a UFO or a satellite or a plane or the space station. That being said, there's a reason why the U.S. government and universities across the U.S. have taken a particular interest in what he has to say.
Of course.
It aligns with a lot of biblical prophecy. He has had his name dropped at the Vatican and discussed at the Vatican with Diana Pasulka. He has done a lot of work to grab a lot of attention. Now, is he trying to capture the money and fame that goes along with it? No, I don't think he's that guy.
No.
He's not that guy. There are people in there that I would say, you're that guy.
Yeah.
Or they're that person. He's not. He really isn't. But that being said, I think it's a healthy way to check it on out. Me personally, I probably would have pulled him to the side rather than doing it in front of the public.
Yes.
Okay. But maybe we weren't there. Maybe Kelly didn't get that chance to question him on it. Right? Because Kelly is a good person too.
Yeah.
And I don't think there was any harm or intent to embarrass him about that.
Well, and I didn't know much about Kelly Chase, so when I read this story, I obviously with Bledsoe, I know enough about him, but with Kelly, I was like, okay, is this, I wasn't sure. And yeah, everything that I read on her and all that sort of stuff, she basically, I think, started out very, very, very analytical and, but a believer, but she really tried to debunk everything that she saw and heard, which is great. But then what I guess had happened is later on, people were disappointed in her because she kind of lost that edge, or they felt that she had lost that edge and started becoming a little bit more spiritual and a little more, in touch with, energy and stuff like that. And it kind of derailed her podcast for a while and her, I guess, well, with some people, her credibility. But all in all, for everything I read on, I was like, okay, so this is a solid person that seems to, be on the UFO side of everything. But yeah, when I saw that she'd called out Chris, I was like, oh, I got to read this.
Well, you know what? It's something that she felt maybe it was the right time.
Yeah.
And once again, it's okay to question. Me personally, I would have probably done it away from the public.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Just say, Chris, that was an airplane. We could track that.
Mm-hmm.
And this is how we're going to track it. I don't think that was something you summoned in.
Yeah. Don't want one of those.
Especially when we could hear it.
Gotcha.
And see it. And see the flashing lights. It happens, though.
Oh, yeah.
It happens.
Exactly. Like with lamps and stuff.
Lamps, irrigation systems. Oh, it happens. It really does. Tim, I want to say a big thank you for coming on for the UFO report quickly here. When do you expect our next video to come out on our YouTube channel?
I'm hoping for tomorrow night.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Tim James, the UFO report. We'll see you tomorrow night, my friend. And, of course, as we say goodnight to Tim, we say hello to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal, rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on X at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and Bigfoot Broadcasting Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. Good job, little Timmy James.
Good job, little Davy Scott.
Appreciate that.
That was a good show.
Appreciate that.
Now I'm going to go take about 400 Tylenol to try to get rid of this computer headache.
Oh, yeah. It's one of those days.
Oh, it's yeah, definitely one of those days. I figured I didn't get lunch today, so I started at 8, worked through till just about 5:30-ish, came home, had supper, and then came downstairs for about 7 o'clock. And I've been in front of this computer. It's like, okay, just about done.
Well, you go do your thing, buddy. Go
Okay,
get some
buddy.
rest.
Definitely. I will chat with you tomorrow on Thursday.
Yep.
You sounds like you need some sleep too, man.
Oh yeah, I'm crashing after this.
Good. All right.
Crashing after this.
Good night, everybody.
All right. Hi, Ozzy Ange. Hi, Thurston Howell III. How are you? Good job tonight, audience. Good job. Your questions were great. All right. Wait for that to load up. Thank you, Polly Roderman. I'm trying to be more positive because apparently I got a little negative there for a while. So I'm trying to be more positive. Fred Dorfma, welcome to SOR Chat. Am I ready there yet? Let's check it on out. Almost. Who's on tomorrow night? Let's take a peek. Brian Bowden filling in for Varley on Our Cryptid World. Varla will be making her return in July. How nice is that news? Not that there's anything wrong with Brian. He's done a great job filling in. Really has. It'll be nice to have Varley back. Varla had some health issues. All right. Where are we here? Let's go here. Big thank you tonight to Deveruni, ×2, Mel WD40, Frankie B, and Kitty Caddywhack for the super chats. We'll see you all tomorrow night, Brian Bowden, and our cryptid world. Thank you, everybody, for tuning us in. If you're new here, make sure you hit subscribe or ring that bell. Otherwise, we'll send Christian McLeod over to you. You don't want any of that, people. No, you don't. So we'll see you soon. Talk to you tomorrow night, everybody.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
You need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.